Is it a question of morality, of spirituality, of mental health, of humanity? What are the consequences, benefits, and risks when we choose to forgive and when we do not? Enright addresses these topics and more. Accessibly written, readers will find this information and his exercises to be useful in addressing issues of forgiveness, specifically and in general. Forgiveness is a hot topic on the Internet. A web search reveals thousands of websites on the topic. Many are of a religious nature. Others are not based on religion. There are a multitude of sub-themes within each type, addressing specific questions such as, how do I forgive my husband for lying? How do I forgive myself for past mistakes? How do I forgive someone who continues to hurt me? How do I forgive a cheating boyfriend? How do I forgive child abuse? And so on. The long and short of it is that people not only suffer from the hurts done to them, but also from the aftermath of those hurts. Those searching the Internet for answers to these questions are examples of individuals suffering not only from being hurt, but also from their inability or reluctance to forgive. But what of the question, to forgive or not to forgive? Simon Wiesenthal, a concentration camp survivor who is well known for his work as a Nazi hunter in the wake of World War II, poses this very question in his famous book, The Sunflower, on the Possibilities and Limits of Forgiveness, 1969. In The Sunflower, Wiesenthal recounts personal events during the Holocaust that caused him to question the role of forgiveness in human relationships. As a prisoner in a concentration camp, he had a singular experience when he was called to the bedside of a dying SS officer, a Nazi, while on a work detail at a nearby hospital. A nurse had to sneak him into the Nazi's room because the hospital was not a place where Jews of the neighboring camp were allowed. The room was more of a death chamber. There was no doubt that the Nazi had little time left. It was a strange turn of events for the prisoner. Stranger still was the wish of the dying officer for Wiesenthal to be his confessor, to recount to him the worst that he had done, and eventually to beg Wiesenthal to grant him forgiveness for his horrendous Nazi crimes. The officer wished to die in peace, but his conscience was too troubled to be able to do so. Wiesenthal suffered under the weight of the request and left the Nazi's room without giving him his forgiveness. But his decision was not straightforward. The request haunted him while awake and in his dreams. He discussed the situation with his closest friends in the camp, but they could not relate to his conflict. They were sure he had done the right thing, that he should not have forgiven the SS officer, that to do so would have been wrong. Miraculously, Wiesenthal continued to survive despite disease and starvation. His closest friends did not. Before he was liberated, he spent some time with a fellow prisoner who was to become a priest. This young man was not as sure of the answer to the question of forgiveness as Wiesenthal's friends had been. The would-be priest considered forgiveness something you gave to someone who had wronged you personally, that you couldn't forgive wrong done to someone else. However, he also considered that the Nazi was not able to ask forgiveness of those he had murdered, and so had sought Wiesenthal as a sort of representative. The nearly priest was convinced that the Nazi had shown signs of genuine remorse, and so his opinion was that forgiveness had been warranted. At the end of his mini-memoir, Wiesenthal questions whether his withholding of forgiveness had been the right thing to do. It is a question that continued to perplex him, and he asks his reader to ask himself, what would I have done? He then poses the same question to prominent people, including the Dalai Lama. The rest of the book is comprised of their many and varied responses. I invite you to consider how you would answer this question now, before reading this book, and then revisit the question after completing. Enright will help you to clarify why forgiveness matters in your life and how it may benefit you to become a more forgiving person. He will provide you with hard data on the advantages of forgiveness for your emotional and physical health. He will provide you with strategies for dealing with difficult forgiveness dilemmas. And, to my mind most importantly, he will help you to, first and foremost, forgive yourself. Key